morning, Carl. Yes, last night, 8 Senate Democrats voted with nearly all Republicans to advance a bill to reopen the government. And while the Senate still does need to take a few more votes, we are waiting to hear what kind of timing agreement they get for when that will be. Plus, the House needs to vote. We really do seem to be, at this point, on a glide path to reopening the government this week. So let's get more into the deal that was struck.
I am voting no, and I will keep fighting.
Still your president, cretin!
So there you have it. The crisis is over. The government shutdown is ending. You can almost hear the champagne corks popping in the halls of Congress and on Wall Street. The media is running victory laps, praising the bipartisan deal and the return to normalcy. They did it. The adults are back in the room. It's all just a complete and total lie. I've been watching this whole charade unfold for 40 days, and what I've just seen is not a victory for the American people. It's not a compromise. It is a profound, cynical betrayal. And I believe this entire manufactured crisis from beginning to end proves one simple, terrifying truth. The entire political establishment in Washington, D.C., both parties, views the American people as nothing more than leverage. They see your suffering not as a problem to be solved, but as a tool to be used. This wasn't a negotiation to save the country. It was a shakedown to save themselves. So let's break down what really just happened. The Senate voted 60-40 to advance a funding bill. The House is expected to pass it, and the president will sign it. Hooray, right? But what's in this deal? What did this month of pain and economic damage actually achieve for you, the person who pays for all of it? The answer is absolutely nothing. This is what they call a clean continuing resolution. It just kicks the can down the road to March. The article says it all. No major policy wins for either side. The Democrats didn't get their permanent bailout for the disaster of Obamacare. Those subsidies are just deferred until December, setting us up for another crisis right before Christmas. Merry Christmas, I guess. And the Republicans? They didn't get any real spending cuts. They didn't get a dime for the border. They got nothing.
So let me get this straight. They shut down the entire federal government for over a month, inflicted billions of dollars in damage to our economy, and caused immeasurable stress to millions of families, only to end up right back where they started, with a temporary patch that solves zero of the underlying problems. It's like two arsonists burn down half the town fighting over how to rebuild it, and then after a month, they agree to put out the fire for now and argue about it again in a few weeks. And the media calls this a compromise. I mean, it's just insane. It's a testament to how broken our system is. This wasn't a failure to reach a deal. The failure was the deal. And while they were playing these stupid, pointless games, real people were suffering. The article lays out just a fraction of the damage. Over 2 million federal workers either furloughed or working without pay. You know, these aren't all just bureaucrats in D.C. These are air traffic controllers, TSA agents, people who actually do important jobs. The FAA says they were short over 3,000 controllers. You wonder why the airports turned into a chaotic nightmare? There's your answer. The safety of the American public was put at risk, not because of some foreign threat, but because of the egos in Washington, D.C. And then there's the SNAP benefits, food stamps. The article says millions of people saw their benefits delayed. This is the part that is just so diabolical. The Democrats, the supposed party of the little guy, were the ones holding up the funding bill. They were literally using the food security of the most vulnerable people in this country as a bargaining chip to get more money for Obamacare. I mean, the sheer breathtaking cynicism of that is hard to even comprehend. You create a crisis that could leave people hungry, and then you turn around and blame your opponents for it. It's a classic political mob tactic, and the media just lets them get away with it.
National parks closed, veteran services halted, an economic hit of over $10 billion. For what? So they could end up with a temporary funding bill that does nothing? This wasn't a negotiation. It was self-sabotage, and we were all the collateral damage. Now, you'll see the blame game in full swing. The article mentions it. Republicans are blaming Democrats for being extortionists. Democrats are blaming the GOP hardliners in the Freedom Caucus for being unreasonable. And of course, they all love to blame Trump. They say he was the one who urged a shutdown in the first place to get border funding. And, let's be real here. Trump's hardball tactics are what got us into this. But what does the outcome actually show? It shows that his instincts were half right. The Democrats are weak. They are divided. They created this massive crisis, held the line for a month, caused all this pain, and then they folded. They blinked. They got scared of the political blowback and agreed to a deal that gave them nothing they originally demanded. So, in a way, it proves that pressure works. The problem is who caved on our side. The so-called Senate pragmatists, the rhinos, they got scared too. They couldn't handle the heat. Instead of using the leverage they had to force real, permanent concessions, like, say, funding for the border wall, they jumped at the first chance to go back to the status quo. They chose a temporary peace for the swamp over a real victory for the American people. It shows you that the establishment on both sides is terrified of a real fight. They just want to get back to their cocktail parties and their lobbyist meetings. And the media? Oh, the media is the worst offender in all of this. They are selling this catastrophic failure as a triumph of bipartisanship, a win for moderation. But let me translate what bipartisanship means in Washington, D.C. Bipartisanship is when the establishment wings of both parties agree to screw you over together. That's all it is. It's the Uni-party patting itself on the back for maintaining its power. The stock market rallied, the article says. Of course it did. Wall Street loves it when the swamp wins. It means nothing is going to fundamentally change. The money spigot stays on, the cheap labor keeps flowing over the border, and the whole rotten system gets to continue for another few months. They averted a crisis for themselves, not for you. You got nothing out of this. In fact, you lost. You lost a month of stability, you lost billions in economic activity, and you lost another little piece of faith in the idea that our government is even capable of functioning.
So let's be absolutely clear about what just happened. This wasn't a crisis being averted. This was a crisis being paused. The DC establishment didn't solve a single problem. They just put a piece of tape over a gaping wound and called it surgery, all while patting themselves on the back for their pragmatism. They held the paychecks of millions of Americans hostage, jeopardized our national security, and used the poorest among us as bargaining chips. And they got away with it. The core conflict here isn't about Republicans versus Democrats. It's about a protected, insulated political class versus everyone else. It's about a system that manufactures its own emergencies, blames everyone but themselves, and then declares victory when they agree to temporarily stop the bleeding they started. The pain wasn't a bug, it was the feature. It was the leverage. This is the real shutdown that's happening in America. It's not the one in Washington. It's the shutdown of accountability, the shutdown of common sense, and the shutdown of a government that is supposed to serve its people, not use them as pawns. Don't let them tell you this is a win. The only thing they won was another chance to do it all over again.